All right, why don't we call the meeting to order? President Lisa McGonigal, Bill McGowan, Wayne Sawchuk, Paul Kears, Dan Coughlin. So as we do every time, set up a new meeting with the 30th of August. Work for everyone?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
August 30th. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it is the end of the month. If we could push it till September if we have to, but see what happens.
That's gonna be a Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday the 30th. That's fine.
Yep. So, Lisa, are you with us or are you on the phone or?
I am here, yes.
So we've got inflow and infiltration. Nobody from
Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot to invite them.
Yeah, so I can add a little something. So the tide gate that controls the flow of James Brook and tidal flow from the harbor back into Jacobs Meadow, which is the meadow that surrounds the plant.
Yeah.
That tide gate has been broken all summer.
Oh.
We're waiting on a part. It's basically a double threaded nut. It's a very special gear or actuator. We're waiting on that part to get it fixed. So anyway, it's been closed for the summer, and so no tidal flow has been coming in. And in discussions with Scott, he's saying they've had the lowest amount of I&I. Well, their flows are the lowest they've had in a long time. So, you know, when we get those flow charts, we'll take a look at them and then look at past, 5 years. I think it's kind of pointing to the smoking gun that there's I&I in the meadow under the marsh. Anyway, so it's just something to note during the season that, with no tidal flow, the I&I seems to be very low. And those 3 master meters that grab the 3 legs coming into the plant, it was pointing in the direction towards the leg going underneath Jacobs Meadow and towards the harbor. So I think it would make sense to plan some camera work on that section from the plant all the way to where we're getting the easement, that manhole at 87 Elm Street, and see what it looks like.
Yeah. Do we want to replace that bolt?
Say it again.
Do we want to replace that part?
Oh, on the yeah, I know. We're going to just push out the lead time a little further.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, we have DEP requirements. It's tied into a bunch of other things. So DEP
Sure,
is kind of breathing down my neck to get that fixed because we have permit requirements for salt, to keeping that a salt marsh meadow. Basically, what it does is it lets in 7 feet of tide and then it shuts it. So we only let in about 7 feet of tide, and then the peak of the tide gets closed off, and then it lets that marsh flowing out. So if we let the entire tide in, we'd probably be flooding, up to people's back doors in a lot of cases. So they have kind of like New Orleans down there. Their backyards are under sea level, and they've been so for 20 years. So they may not even know that their backyards are
Right.
should be flooded.
Yeah.
Right.
Brian, I think we should really, when you do go and have it open and shut, is to really get some good calculations of the change in flow going to the plant. It's like almost like a 1 or 2 day event, I think. So if it does dramatically go up, in each of those 3 areas or one of the 3 areas, it really means that we should do something.
Secondly,
Yeah,
I think. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, secondly, when we do go to do something, we should pick the summer and we should close the gate while we're doing the work.
Yeah.
That sounds silly, but I mean.
Yeah.
But we've always thought that the marsh was a problem anyway, right? Like those manholes that are there.
Well,
yes,
it has to be.
This is just kind of another data point.
Yeah. All right. Anything else? No.
Not on that.
No, on that. So I think we can go to Mr. Davis. You have the floor.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you inviting me for the meeting. As you may be aware, the Cohasset Municipal Harbor Plan has as one of its priorities addressing the ecosystem and environmental issues in the harbor. And as you also know, there are many ecological environmental issues that are coming from different parts of the harbor, including the Gulf. And my reason for coming today is to see if you would support a study or studies of water flows and particularly environmental issues within those flows. So I guess, and this would be a low cost project, and the Harbor Committee I know supports the work of others that are doing that kind of testing, but there are some areas that I think are important to be addressed. And so I have a first of all, kind of rhetorical question, if you would support that, and secondly, if you would, there are a couple of questions I have of you, but before I move on to those other questions, do you have any comments on that?
So
Whether you support it?
are you asking for financial support in addition to board support?
No.
And
No,
then,
not
so what, one of the big issues that we've had is this discussion on sewering South Main, because that would be the last part of Cohasset that abuts the Gulf that is not sewered. So we've sewered all the way up border into the Situate line, and we haven't come across the other way. So one of the select board members has mentioned several times that, he felt that there was a high level of pollution there, perhaps caused by, failed septic systems or some sort of old cesspool systems of some sort. We have never gotten an answer from him as to where he could get the data from. So I'd like to see that data, because if we're talking with Situate on moving ahead with sewering South Main, which the Sewer Commission determined to do many years ago, specifically to help reduce whatever environmental issues that are maybe caused in the Gulf. And we'd also want to know is the Situate side of the Gulf would also have to be sewered in order for the Gulf to be completely surrounded by sewer and removed from any cesspool or septic system. So in this study, would you be able to identify specifically in the Gulf any of those issues?
Well, thanks, Paul. I think the area that we're interested in is further out, coming down from the Gulf, going out toward Whitehead and the Glades, that area, just to see what those flows are and where the sources of any particular pollution or effluent is. I know there have been studies, and CSCR has done studies of the Gulf, and I'm certainly happy to include their information and their data for you.
Okay.
In doing that, and happy to do it. But to answer your first question, we're not looking for financial involvement here, other than some of your resources, like maybe your plant manager to talk with us about how best to do this. But other than that, no.
Yeah, there was a grant that was issued in the state budget to help us between Situate and Cohasset try and figure out some of the issues that we have.
Mhm.
I'm not sure how vague the use of funds statement is, but we can certainly take a look at that.
Okay.
If you're looking at flows though, from, a little farther out, towards Whitehead, I'd like to see what it is in the Gulf Because, we're pumping, cleaner than clean water into the harbor, right? So theoretically, we're diluting what comes from the Gulf, right? Because it's got to come past where we're pumping. So by the time it gets down to you or to Whitehead, you've got kind of a blended environmental flow.
Yes,
So,
you're absolutely right.
yeah,
And I think, what we're interested in is not so much the specific pollution today, but a benchmark of what the flow is, so that if in the future things change, we can quickly identify it and address it, whether it's good or bad. If there was a failure of the sewer plant, and it came out into the outfall there, we know where that came from, and we'd be pretty alert to that.
Yeah.
But then where does it go from there, and what is the impact on the rest of the environment that we're really interested in?
Okay.
So that if there is an incident, whether it's in the Gulf or whether it's in the sewer or wherever it comes from, we can have the data and the information to address it quickly.
great. Yeah, I welcome if you had any reports from specific to the Gulf from any environmental group in the past, I would like to take a look at that. So,
Sure. I will work on that today for you, Paul.
thank you.
Before I ask any further questions, do you guys, Wayne or Bill, do you have any questions for me?
No, I mean, I think it's perfectly feasible to do this.
Okay,
Okay.
let me ask a couple of questions then. Is your lab that you have on site certified? Is it an official testing laboratory? Or, when you test, what's the, I mean, does it, I know it's meaningful to you, but is it meaningful to anyone else in
No.
an official capacity?
No, it's not a certified lab.
It's not a certified lab. Okay.
No.
So,
I should also mention, if you're looking at flows, there were several hydrodynamic studies that were performed previously on the Gulf, on the harbor, and as the flow goes out of the Gulf. So there is some good solid background data already on the hydrodynamics
Mhm.
Of the harbor.
great.
Where is the data now?
Basically, some of it's in, basically, most of it's in the old facility plans as appendix materials. Applied Science Associates, for the most part, did most of the hydrodynamic modeling.
Mhm.
They set out some monitors in the embayment and basically measured currents and flux. So there is some good data on basically the tidal flux that goes in and out of the harbor.
Where's the data located?
In the appendix materials for the facility plans.
Okay,
Is
so
that on your site?
The original 96 had a hydrodynamic model. I think that's on your website. And then in 2006, that was updated as well.
that's good.
Okay, well, we'll certainly look for that as well and work with it.
You know what your scope is, Tim? You have like a scope already, or?
We haven't, no, we haven't really, and I haven't taken this to the Harbor Committee yet. So I'm just kind of investigating to see what your interest would be and your support for this, and then I will certainly take it to the Harbor Committee. And we'll have a scope that will be, what I think probably the best thing to do is to see what has already been done.
This is Matt.
Hello?
Hi, David. Sorry. This is
See what's already been done and design a scope around data that's already done. So we'll do that.
I just want to add too, there's some fresh results from bacteria from CSCR that just collected this summer. That kind of was like in around the Cove and the Gulf River, and while they're not a certified lab, you can always use their results even just on a relative scale, to see where the highest numbers are and lowest numbers and stuff. And I'm sure they'd be happy to participate and do a more intense study if they wanted to.
Great, thanks, Pam.
The other thing is, for several years, Woodward and Curran supported financially some interns from the school and stuff like that. And they did an excellent job on, gathering a lot of the material. So it might be possible to get either get a grant from some of this new funding to provide some additional help in actually doing the work.
Yes, good, thanks, Wayne.
Yeah, and Tim, we can hook you up with Woodard and Curran when the time comes.
Okay, that'd be great too. So you would be supportive if we were to work with you and your folks at the sewer department to bring samples and try to figure out a way to identify what is in those samples and where it came from. You would be willing to work with us on that? Again, we're not looking for funding at this point. We're looking for just assistance from you experts like you to get this information.
I think we'd have to talk to Woodard and Curran first to see if they have the time and capacity to do something like that, but we certainly can ask them.
Okay, well, I don't see this taking a lot of time.
Yeah.
And really, I don't know if we'd even involve Woodward and Curran, but certainly if you can let me know what you're willing to do, what you're able to do, that would be most helpful.
Tim, if you can supply your email or something to Lisa, I can send you copies of those reports.
Great, I sure will. Thank you. I appreciate that. That would save me a lot of time and save me calling on my granddaughter to help me navigate. Okay. Well, those really are the main thing, and I appreciate your willingness to work with us. And I, certainly, if you have, as we bring this together and design it, because I think it'll take a period of time and perhaps different cycles that have already been tested, just to make sure we've got additional data, not duplicate data. As we do that, I appreciate you working with us and advising us as best you can.
Sure.
If you have any other questions with me, we'll certainly be in touch with you and work with you on this.
I would perhaps suggest that you speak to some of the lobstermen and see what changes, if any, have been occurring in and around the harbor, either because of too much fresh water and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Years ago, we had lobster cars in the harbor, and then after I think the plant was built and all that, it seemed as though the lobster cars all had to disappear because there was too much fresh water and the lobsters weren't being held. Now, it might have to with nutrients in the water and everything else, but sometimes they can give a good perspective on what's happening in the Gulf, going out to Whitehead and everywhere else.
Well, yes, and I have, and I will continue to talk with them. I know that there used to be a lot of eelgrass or other vegetation up by where the outflow is, and that's no longer there. So I think you're right that a lot of fresh water is coming in at that point. Probably fresh water coming down through the Gulf too, but
right. And I think coming down James Brook and stuff going in, that's, there's probably more fresh water, by far more fresh water coming in from the brooks and streams into the harbor as there is more development and there's more, sort of runoff going down pipes instead of into the ground.
Right. Well, on a whole different ecological environmental issue, preserving that fresh water for other uses rather than just flushing it into the harbor is probably a good goal and at some point in the future. We need fresh water. Certainly we need fresh water in Cohasset today, but not in the Gulf or not in the harbor. Okay. If there aren't any other questions, I will leave you to your important business of the day, and I will be in touch with you. And I will send Lisa my email contact right away.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Tim.
All very much. Appreciate what you're doing.
Next, we have Cook Estate. I don't know if Jane is on.
So Jane is not on. Steve Sullivan will be taking over for her.
Okay.
Let me promote everybody.
Yeah, and just so everyone knows, the issue is that they wanted to go have a different path to connect up with the sewer pipe than what was originally designed. And I believe Dan has seen that, and perhaps even Brian. So if somebody from the Cook Estate wants to run us through what they're looking for, and I think they're just looking for us to bless it and see what happens. So.
Yes, by the way, this involves basically not going under pavement and areas, but going down around on where the landscaped areas are, where the grass is and stuff.
Yeah.
And this drilling mechanism that they are using has just been phenomenal. I mean, they're literally off of the school property or very close to that, and they're using this device that to go, any depth that you want almost, and do it very, very quickly and not disturb the surface of the ground. It just
So instead of going under the parking lot so what is the change from the parking lot of the school to the grass area of the school?
They went under the whole parking lot without
Okay.
coming up to the surface,
Construction, right.
and they needed the grass areas to be able to dig down to pipes as they got wet, and they're doing it in 300-foot lengths. So it's just phenomenal.
Yeah, Bill, this is Tom Flannery speaking. Just to introduce myself to some of the committee members, because I was on a call a long time ago, but I have not been on recently. Jane, her term has expired on the board. So she's as of last week, and I've been asked to step up to her role. We also have another new board member up here who's not on the call today. Jane is off enjoying a vacation in Wellfleet this week, but she sends her best. Yeah, as Bill mentioned at our annual meeting, one of the residents brought up the thought about going behind the homes as opposed to through the streets up at Cook Estates, where there are currently a lot of utilities under the ground. We looked at that again based on that person's recommendation, both Sean and Paul Davis, and they made a determination that might be a more appropriate way to go and less disruptive to the street, the paving, and potentially running into utilities as they went through that process. I'll let Paul and Sean explain it in more detail, but basically it's adding about 30 feet of pipe to go around the homes in the back as opposed to go down through the street. So Sean, maybe you can discuss it, and Paul, you can explain the progress on the directional drilling that you've undertaken, which I think has been very good, as Wayne and others indicated, through the school property with very little disruption to this point. So Sean, Paul, I'll hand it to you to explain to Bill and the committee what we're trying to do.
Okay. Well, initially we were proposing to come up through the roadway. And as we pass the existing force mains, tie them into the new proposed force main. But the contractor, so Rosano Davis there, Paul Davis, they contracted and have been doing directional drilling, and they've been making some pretty good progress. But one of the, I guess, drawbacks with that is every time you come across an existing utility that's in the ground, the progress stops. They have to excavate it to witness what that utility is and look down in the hole as the force main is being drilled through to make sure that there hasn't been any impact to that existing utility. So one of the questions that was asked is, what are the odds of being able to go in the backyards behind the houses in the lawn areas instead? And therefore there are, I think there's only two, utility crossings that might be there. There was a drain line in addition to the existing force mains that we would have to uncover anyway. So we looked at it and it looks like it's appropriate. As Tom said, it's only about 30 more feet of pipe. Therefore, it doesn't affect any of the calculations. And when we brought it up, the review engineer thought that that would be a major change. So we put it on paper and we're formally asking you guys to approve it as a modification to our plan.
Has there been any review of any conservation impact at all? I know we talked about going behind the estates in the past, but there was some conservation issues, so.
Yeah, the houses that we're going behind are the ones closer to Sawyer Street. So we're
Okay.
actually getting further away.
Okay, terrific. Has Dan Coughlin and his group been able to review the plans?
Yes.
So Dan, what is your,
I had some initial comments and Sean pretty much addressed those. I was a little concerned regarding the air release manhole being too remote and inaccessible, but he added some additional topographic features to the plan and resubmitted that and indicated that there is a driveway fairly close so that, you know, a Vector truck, if needed, could back up and get to the unit and perform any maintenance that was needed. So that was my only, that was only my significant concern. And obviously the location of the unit or the air release is going to be in the backyards of the home. So I was a little concerned that potentially it might become an odor issue down the road. And I asked Sean to take a look at that too, but it's basically up to them as far as what type of odor scrubber or if they want to use that now or add it later.
it doesn't change any connection aspects to the Hagee property?
No.
Okay.
No, that's not.
Brian, have you looked at it? Have you got any concerns?
Yeah, no, I looked at it. I think it's a clever idea and it makes sense. You know, it's less impact to the roadway, less patching and less potential utility conflict. So
Right.
yeah, hydraulically, it works fine.
Pam, do you have anything?
No, I think it's great.
I don't know if we have to take a vote on it. I think we're just making a plan amendment, right? Is that pretty much all we're doing?
We should vote on the amended plan, and
Okay.
I'd make to approve the revisions to the original plan.
And I'll second. Let's do a roll call. Bill McGowan, aye.
Paul Kearsarge,
Wayne Sawchuk, aye.
So I just have one other point that we had talked about and how it affects the easement. And I guess that's a question for Sharon, but I mean, we're just moving the alignment of the pipe around instead of in front of the houses, it's going behind the houses. So the easement is going to go continuous with that.
Correct.
So I don't know if that changes any verbiage or anything. Just want to bring it up as a point of discussion.
No, it doesn't, because the plan is incorporated in the easement and it doesn't describe it in words, so nothing needs to be changed.
Okay.
Okay.
so
Great.
what's on the agenda now is to vote and approve the easement for Cook. So Sharon, the last we talked on the easement, there was some conversation that we had with Brian as what would be appropriate to repair and replace over time, specific to Hagee. And so is the language acceptable to Cook now and the town on the easement?
I still don't know. I haven't heard from Chris Agostino. No, so, you know, he said that the language was fine. That was a couple of weeks ago. I sent his email to Jane and others saying that he was looking for their feedback, but I still haven't heard anything.
My understanding was acceptable. We can follow up through our attorney and with, because Jane had emailed from Chris Agostino and we had executed copies
Okay.
that the Haggees and us were signing off on. So I'll
Okay. Well,
confirm.
Yeah, I
I'll see where
I
those
believe-
copies are and get the update. Go ahead.
Yeah, I believe there's an executed copy with Jane. So we'll get that from her, but I believe it's been executed and it should be final.
Okay. And
You're talking specifically the easement?
Yes,
Yeah, this is with the
Okay.
Haggees property.
the Hagee property easement, yes.
Okay, so we need one that we have prepared for Cook Estates assigned to the town, that's the one that we need. There's an easement specifically for that.
Is that in the development plan or is that a separate document? Sure.
That's a separate document, and that's, you know, the easement is to be assigned once the work has been completed. I can prepare one now. It's just a simple one paragraph agreement that you can sign and place into escrow, and then we can record once the work has been done.
That sounds reasonable.
Yeah, there's two agreements we're waiting on Cook Estates to execute. One is this, the easement, and the second one is the actual agreement, sewer agreement.
Right.
So do you know where the sewer agreement stands?
Well, the sewer agreement we received on Sunday. We've been going through that. I have some questions on it. And I think we have to have that reviewed from a legal standpoint. I'm not a lawyer, but our attorney has that. I think I have a few questions, as does some of the others. So we'll go through that process, hopefully quickly get that turned around.
Okay, there's provisions in there that had to have occurred by now. So that's my concern, is that we're going to start falling farther behind as the construction moves quicker than anticipated.
Yep, we'll work on it as quickly as we can.
So why don't we plan on, we have another meeting on the 30th of the month. So why don't we plan on Cook Estate being on that agenda?
The hookup is probably going to be completed by then, so.
Yeah, but we want to get all the,
Yeah,
all
we
the
don't-
paperwork stuff done and.
Yeah, we've got a agreement in place that hasn't been executed that,
Well, we just got it on Sunday.
Sunday
so-
afternoon.
And it's with our lawyer, legal review and go through it. There's a lot in that agreement. I go through things. Certainly, like, there was a surety requirement and Paul got a surety bond for the time. So we've done the application fee already. So I think some of the stuff, Paul, that was already supposed to be done, we've done. I know that doesn't account for the document not being signed, but we're, working through to comply with every step on the way.
right, there's also an additional deposit that has to be done prior to construction being built. So construction's already underway, so
Yep.
just want to take a look at a couple of those pieces
Yeah,
and
well, that was one that I wasn't familiar with until I got the document, so.
right. And just so you're aware that this is only for the Cook Estate, it does not include the Hagee property, so there is a privilege and hookup fee that will be assessed for the Hagee property that we will get you that amount for.
And I think, Lisa, can you confirm? I think you got a couple of checks, right?
Yes, so I got the application fees. So the 27,000 for the Cook Estate application fee and the 1,000 for the Hagee application fee.
Right.
Right,
Okay.
so in summary, along with the application fee, there would be the bond that would be in place from Paul Davis, which I believe he already has the bond in place, so that satisfies that aspect of it. And then what follows next is that once it's constructed and conveyed to the town, there's a bond that's in place, I think, for 27,000 for 1 year. And then the assessment of the privilege and hookup fee, one for the Hagee's 3-bedroom property is somewhere around 28,000, and there's a deposit of about 37,000 from Cook. And then the balance for Cook is financed over 20 years at 4%. So that's the summary of where we are.
Yeah, so I think the things that we are trying to look at is, which are new to us as of right now, was the bond for the guarantee period, as well as the, let's see, what's known as the SOAR fund. So that's new to us. So we've had a couple of expenses that have come up that we were not made aware of, and those came up in this agreement. So those are the ones we're looking at right now.
Okay. So we don't have to wait until the 30th to hear from you. So as soon as you guys can,
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, we won't wait until then. We get through the review and have a comments and feedback, we'll be in touch and work. through
Okay.
That process.
Okay. I don't know if there's interest in hearing from, on the behalf of the committee members and hearing from Paul Davis as to the progress. But I know some have been on site to see it, but if you would like Paul to give an update, we have him on.
I would like that.
Yeah, so, Dan Coughlin is our subject matter expert. He's the one who's been tasked to go out on site with his folks throughout the process. So hopefully Paul is working with Dan on coordinating when to come out and inspect everything. That's the $20,000 deposit that was required as well for us to be able to pay him to go out and inspect the. So Dan, are you on a schedule with Paul?
Yeah, we're basically monitoring the work as far as it goes. Obviously, there wasn't a heck of a lot to watch with the directional drill, and there probably won't be on the next leg as well. But the connections, the actual connections to manholes and structures, obviously they're going to have to take a look at that.
Okay. And Paul, any update?
Not much more than has been said. I mean, we should be off the school property tomorrow. If we can pave tomorrow, we'll be done. We had to open up one trench where there was multiple utility crossings. So our goal is to be off the school property tomorrow, and we did hit some ledge on the Hagee property, so we need to start working on that. And then I have to figure out a schedule to get the crew back, the drilling crew.
Thank you.
Anything else we need to do? No. All right, well, thank you, guys.
All right,
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thank you, Paul.
So next we have an update from CJC.
From who?
I don't know.
I guess it would be me. Basically, we still had the issue with vacuum testing of manholes and the CCTV that was in the original approval. When you approved the project plans, I believe you referenced the letter I had sent you as the requirements in that. One of those requirements was like the manholes, and the board went back and revisited that and basically allowed the change in manholes that Mass DOT had recommended. But there's still the other two requirements. And basically, when we approached Tetra Tech regarding that testing, they said it's not in the rules and regs and we're not going to do it. So we did have a little bit of an issue with them, and we still do. They're basically off the roadway at this point in time, and those two components have not been completed yet. In terms of the on-site work, Spirito's been doing that work, and I believe, basically completed the gravity portion for where it came in the property to the first manhole. They are going to be doing I just got a notice today, this morning, that they're going to do some pressure testing tomorrow. So I'll have to notify them we're going to be on site again, and they're going to do some pressure testing and some manual testing on that new pipe.
Have they done,
well.
the line went down the pavement, down Route 3A?
Can you just repeat that? Sorry, Wayne, you broke up a little.
Did they do pressure testing of the 6-inch line going from, basically the property line down to Tupelo Road?
Yes, they did do pressure testing on the sewer main itself. There was no testing of the manholes. And they also did mandrel test. Last week, there's a little mix up on the mandrel, but they did the 7.5 mandrel test on the pipe, and that went fine as well. So pressure testing of the pipes and mandrel testing of the pipes they did do. We also had asked them to clean and flush the line, which they did do. But the two requirements that we had still in there for vacuum testing of manholes, just to make sure those are sealed up tight, and also the CCTV or TV inspection of the line after full construction and cleaning. Those two elements have not been done.
So So if Mark is on, from,
I am on.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone.
yeah, and, I know that Wayne, didn't you guys have an on-site meeting to kind of go over these? You were there with, Dan
Yes.
on site, right? So you guys agreed to some of these issues. So what, Mark, can you give us an update from your perspective?
Sure. So as Mr. Coughlin mentioned, the mandrel was pulled through the Route 3A sewer line. And it passed the 7.5% mandrel test. The sewer line on Route 3 was also pressure tested, which also passed those tests. Now, in terms of pressure testing or vacuum testing the sewer manholes and also CCTV inspection of the lines, to my understanding, that is not in the rules and regulations of the Sewer Commission that's been published. And we talked about that on June 10th with Mr. Coughlin, and we agreed to do the mandrel and also to do what is required in the Sewer Commission's regulations. We did not agree to doing the CCTV testing or the vacuum testing. So where is that requirement for vacuum testing and also CCTV written down or published?
It was basically in the plan approval. I believe if you look at the original motion of the board, they approved the Route 3A plans subject to a review letter that we had provided to the board. And there were two requirements in that review letter, which were part of the approval, which outlined those two. tasks.
Mr. Coughlin, I've never received a formal approval letter from the commission.
Do you have that handy, Dan, that you could send out?
Lisa should provide it with the motion.
So this is a letter that you wrote with additional requirements.
No, I wrote the letter. I provided him with a copy of that letter. But if you want an official approval letter or issuance, then Lisa should issue something, referencing the meeting and the motion.
My understanding, you being the town's consultant, you don't offer an approval. The Sewer Commission needs to approve the plans and specifications of a project.
That's what he said. We took that as a motion and we voted for it.
Okay. So in terms of that, what does the commission want us to do for testing?
I
So
mean,
do you
I
want
can't-
us to
I-
follow
I-
the,
yeah.
let me just ask you, do you want us to follow the rules and regulations as published? Dated 2000? Or do you want to follow what Mr. Coughlin has offered in a letter? I just need
Again-
clarification.
Again, the original motion, I think, of the board made those conditions of the approval. So if you want to continue with those, you don't have to do anything. If you want to remove those.
I
you
think
just have to
for
take a-
clarity, Mr. Coughlin, I think I would like a letter from the commission.
Yeah, Lisa, can
outlining the
we,
requirement. I think
I-
it's only fair if the commission can offer a letter or an email addressing the approval, so that way Mr. Statsco, Mr. Morgan, and the folks who are working on the project, and also my staff, have a clear understanding what is required. And I
We
think
can
that's
do,
only
yeah, we can
fair.
do that. That's not a problem.
yeah, I think, Lisa, if we can find that, when we approved that, that Dan said he sent an email with the requirements. Is that right, Dan?
Yeah, I actually put it into a formal letter so you can attach it and.
You did send a formal letter?
Yep, it was
Okay.
emailed over though. but it was-
Okay, so Lisa could find that for us. We can review it and then get back to CJC. Get them a copy of it as well.
Okay,
And just let us know what public meeting that we approved it. So we can get clarification.
That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, okay.
That's only fair.
I don't disagree. We've separately, we've asked Dan to update our rules and regulations, and we're still waiting on that. And he mentioned that you would, in the updated rules and regulations that he has worked on thus far, I asked if it would have any adverse effect to CJC. He said it did not because you were already complying with what was in the new version of the rules and regulations. So just want to confirm that we're not missing something here.
From all I can say from our last meeting, June 10th, we walked away from the meeting with understanding that we would follow the rules and regulations that's published in 2000. In the addition that Mr. Morgan offered and agreed to doing the mandrel test that's not specified in the rules and regulations that's published. And that's how we left it on June 10th. And Mr. Sawstruck was at that meeting.
Yeah, that meeting was primarily about the on-site work.
True. True.
The Route 3A plans had already been approved by the board.
That is true.
So
Yeah,
do-
But
I think
that was discussed at that meeting. So I guess from my perspective and from my team's perspective, I just need clarification.
Okay, so we'll get that
and-
clarification for you when Lisa pulls the letter from Dan that we approved
Okay,
with your plans, right?
fair enough.
And then any additional requirements that are needed, Dan has to bring them to the board, and then we would have to review them along with, Brian Joyce, and then we would approve any additional requirements prior to asking you to conform to them. We would have to approve them. So, moving forward, I want to make sure that we don't have the same disconnect.
Agreed.
And Mark, is your firm going to continue through the whole process? For instance, working with Spirito, et cetera, to connect everything up?
Yes, my understanding we are. We're still on site for the Route 3A work, which is right now, the sewer main has been installed. The last invert was constructed. And now we just have to return back with RJV to do the perimeter patch for meeting MassDOT requirements. But the sewer work on Route 3A is essentially complete. For the on-site work, plans were submitted to the board, to the commission last week for buildings 380, 390, and 400. And these were revised drawings. And we incorporated Mr. Coughlin's comments that was discussed on June 10th, and which was essentially agreed to as we ran down the list of items on that 21-page review letter.
Okay.
Anything else?
The on-site work. You mentioned that the gravity.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Yes, we are on site as requested by Mr. Statsko and Mr. Morgan to be on site to witness the work that's ongoing. Only to witness and document the work. We understand the site plans have not been approved by the commission, but we are there at the Mr. Statsko's request to witness and document the work that's going on related to the sanitary force mains and pump stations.
Okay.
All right. Do we have anything else for CJC?
No, but we should get a copy of that. That was week circulated.
Yep, we'll do that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very
All
much.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
Take care now.
Okay, so we're now on to 87-124 Elm Street, sewer easement review and vote. Yeah, I was just going to ask Sharon if you wanted to say something on this. Are we good with the easement as far as you're concerned?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Does Elm Street have anything to say about the easement? Any comments from them?
So I'd like to make a motion to accept the easement for 87 and 124 Elm Street.
Just Paul, just
Or I
before we
think-
do, does anybody from Elm Street have any comments on the easement?
Hi there. Sorry, no, we have none at this time, no.
So you're good with the language then as it's been presented?
Yeah, I just chatted with Lisa. I couldn't make last week's meeting. Ted was obviously there. He's busy now. But yeah, we are all set with the language.
Okay.
I do have a question for Sharon, and that is, on our agenda, it says 87,124. I realized, isn't this just 87?
It's 87.
Okay.
So it's just a point of clarification, Bill. That's not 124 included.
Yep. Okay. All right. Carry on.
So I'd like to make a motion to accept the easement agreement for 87 Elm Street.
I'll second. We'll do a roll call. Bill McGowan, aye.
Paul Kears, aye.
Wayne Sawchuck, aye.
So from an administrative perspective, Lisa, if we could have this at the town clerk's office, we could just go down there and sign it once it's executed by Elm Street folks. Is that the process you're in for them to execute first? Okay.
Usually, yes.
Yeah. Is that possible, Lisa, or do you want it up in your office?
Oh, it doesn't matter. Either way.
I just figured the town clerk's office would be the quickest place for us to get in and out of.
Yeah. And, okay, so, where does it stand right now? Who has the final and,
So John, your folks have to execute the agreement, and we've got to get it over to Lisa so she can get it to the town clerk.
Okay.
And then the three of us sign it. And I think
We're good.
we're good.
Great. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so now we have Lambert's Lane.
so I have John Orman in the meeting.
Well, Stone the engineer join us. Promote Elton Steele on.
He's on, yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
You can.
Yes.
Okay, although my wonderful picture isn't up at the moment, but anyway, I'm the engineer for, let me introduce myself first, please. Alton Stone, Alton Engineering in Sterling, Massachusetts. I'm a registered professional engineer in Massachusetts, and I've been assisting Mr. Orman in the engineering of his project. And I am the one who completed the initial sewer layout we are proposing. The question John and I have had, and perhaps the sewer commission will have input on this, always helpful, is whether we would try and get a gravity line or a pressure line. I have proposed an E1 type sewer, which is a small pressure line, 4-inch diameter, perhaps bigger, that would take it to a manhole from our site to the manhole, to a manhole before Hull Street, Maine. And from thence it would gravity with a 12-inch line is required into that sewer. The problems with.
Elton, do you want to share the plan? You want to
Yeah.
share the plan, Elton, so they can see it?
Oh, well, how do I do that? I don't even know where it is on this computer anyway. Is that, can you put it up, John?
Yeah, I'll try to put it up, yeah.
I think you have the PFD, right?
Yeah, PDF, yeah, I think. I
PDF,
have it.
excuse me.
Yeah, let me try to bring it up. Yeah, keep talking, I'll bring it up soon.
All right. The problem with the gravity sewer is, one, if for a 2% slope and something of this nature where there's not a lot of flow, I would prefer to see a 2% slope. Maybe the commission feels 1% is adequate, but I'm not sure with just 4 small homes, even at 110, even at probably 300 or 400 gallons a day, there's going to be enough water to move everything along at a 1% slope. So that would require, I have made a quick estimate of the length of the line there. I think it's 429 feet from the furthest away residence. And the grade in the invert for the Hull sewer in the street is at elevation 45. Your bylaw requests or the Hull sewer requests, we come in 12 inches above that. So that means the invert of our in would be elevation 46, if you will. Adding if at 400 and what did I have, 29 feet plus or minus the total length, that would mean an elevation gain of 8.6 feet in order to make it work as a gravity, which is somewhat difficult on our property. We require a great deal of fill to be placed for some of the properties that are, you know, at a lower elevation. It would have to come up, as you can see here. The other concern with the gravity is that we would have to, the area there appears to be have a great deal of ledge and rock, and it would probably be a difficult excavation to put it at the depth you require and to keep it as a gravity flow, or a great deal of fill to cover it. But it would, I think, hello? Are you hearing me?
Yeah, we're here. Yeah, we're here.
Oh, you can hear me still. So, John?
Yes, I'm here. Can you see the plan?
I can, but can you kind of move it up a little?
Yes, sure.
Just because part of it's not being visible.
You know, I don't know about the rest of the board. I certainly would like a description of what exactly you're doing. This is the first I've heard about 4 homes.
Oh, okay. Mr. Orman's property, he is, I don't want to use the word subdivision because it isn't a subdivision, but it's being divided into 4 properties.
I'm pretty sure the past approval was only for 2 connections.
Yeah, we lost him.
Yeah, so John, could you get us the addresses of the property that has the 1 or 2 connections?
Yeah, so we have 26 Lambert's Lane. The site was set up originally for 4 lots, and I basically bought it and just finalized the A&R plan. So now we have 4 lots there. I originally spoke to you guys about 2 years ago because I thought it was 2 lots. So we're going to put 2 families up there. But then we decided it made more sense based on the neighborhood to put 4 smaller houses up. So from a sewage standpoint, we feel the capacity is about the same. So it's either 2 big 2 families or 4 1 families. So from a volume standpoint, we thought it's the same. So that's why we designed it this way. As far as the flow and everything goes, we're going to basically follow your standards based on your guidelines for sewer connections to a main and Hull. On Hull Street, which is the Hingham sewer line. We spoke to the folks over at Hingham and they approved it. They said that there's no capacity. They don't care how many we connect in there. 4 sounded okay. So, you know, they said now we have to work with you to kind of go over the connection and make sure it's correct and we follow your standards. So that's why Alton was on the line here today to go over that, but I guess he's not here again. So Alton, did you come back in yet or?
Well, did you get approval a couple years ago for 2?
Well, just a verbal approval.
Okay, so
I brought the product. They said come back, and they said, "Hey, come back later." And
yeah,
and so you didn't. There's no application that was filled out in any plan submitted.
No, not at all. No.
So we're starting from scratch.
Yeah, correct.
Basically.
Okay.
So I guess the question, and I do remember this X years ago. Even though you're connecting to Hull / Hingham, if this is actually an increase, I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what it is or not, but is this a increase in the sewer district in Cohasset, and does it have to go before town meeting?
No, not at all. There's nothing in any capacity anywhere.
Well,
it's basically just 4 connections coming to an existing sewer.
Okay, well, thank you, but that, I was actually sending that to our board. So
Okay, all right.
I figured I knew your answer. I just wanted to see what ours would be.
Yeah, I don't think this is an extension of the sewer.
Yeah, it's
district.
going through private property.
Hello?
Yeah,
Yeah, you just got to reconnect.
so there's a very small portion that's connects to Hull Street.
And I don't know what the hell happened. I can get down and try and reset it. But in the interim, I was thinking if you could put your phone out there and speaker, I can continue.
Oh, okay, all right, okay, sure. Are you here now? Can you guys hear Altonstone?
Yeah, kind of.
You know,
Okay,
I apologize. My computer winked out. I'm gonna try and reset it.
okay.
But in the interim, the, describing the project is, John, I believe, John, if I'm correct, the planning board approved the 4 A&R lots,
Yes, they did, yep.
approval not required. So our next real process was look at the sanitary waste disposal, which is the major issue. We had two choices, if I'm not mistaken. One is to put in septic systems or soil absorption systems, as they're now called. Although the town bylaw directs us to use sewer if at all possible. And so John and I have been debating this, but we're not sure of the ease of getting septic systems in on this piece of property due to all the ledge and also the fact we will have stormwater to dispose of at some point. So the plan was to look at the sewer option, and the two choices there are gravity and one of the common pressure systems. E1 is the one I've worked with in the past, if that type of a system is acceptable to the town. So each house of the 4 on the plan is shown would have its own grinder pump. And then from there, the flow would gravity down to the main pump chamber. That would then pump it up to a manhole near Hull Street. And for the last 10 feet, it would gravity flow from that manhole into the Hull Street main. This, we think, would make it easier with less excavation required to run the line, and it's probably quite rocky out that way. So you can see the line goes through sort of what we've, a property frontage that we have put up such that it can reach Hull Street without going across the other properties. And that's the plan we have been proposing to use. Does that describe initially what we're proposing? So the big question is the layout I gave of the E1 type of sewer. One, is that type of a system going to be acceptable to Cohasset Sewer Department, Sewer Commission, or are you going to require a gravity system? That's our first question. And the second is, if you approve of the preliminary design that I have shown on this plan, if so, then we would go forward with a more, obviously a detailed engineered plan with equipment, materials, slopes, grades, pump sizing, and everything else. So that's where we are at this moment.
I guess we would need time for Dan Kaufman and his team to review. I'm just assuming the gravity's not going to work. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think we originally assumed it was going to be pressure in the site
Yeah.
anyways. There are some wetlands in there as well. And it's pretty much an uphill battle to get to the Hull Street.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sort of remembering this thing, and I think that have you guys gone before Concom at all?
Yeah, we're gonna go eventually for the houses and for the driveway, but we're thinking that the river that's there that they're saying is a river is all dried up, and we're gonna be able to prove that it's either man-made or not a river. So we don't have any, I don't think we're gonna have any issues because the wetlands is back, 100 feet. We're outside of the 100-foot and we're outside of the river bank. So I think we're gonna be fine there, but we are gonna work with them next. This sewer pipe doesn't go through anything in conservation at all. So we can direct it around it. There's about a third of the property is on a alleged riverbank front, but the riverbank is like a stream that dries up in the summer every year. So we're working with them on that, but we also have rights to develop in the riverfront area. But from a sewer standpoint, nothing will be going through the riverfront at all.
And have you gone before Lisa or to get an application and, you know, put a formal application?
Yeah, we want to put an application in, but we wanted to make sure that this was feasible from your standpoint before we even apply, because then we would just look to do septic systems. We don't want to put in an application and you just say, oh, denied, you know? So we want to have some feasibility review to see, hey, yeah, you'll let us connect here and we'll put the application in. Otherwise, we'll just go ahead and we'll build septics out there and we'll put 4 septics up. So, you know, we would prefer sewer, but we'll do sewer or septic or a combination of both. You know, the folks over in Hingham said that there was no capacity issues, so it's just a matter of connecting up. You know, there's enough width there to get that in. The neighbor who just built a house there got his pipe in. He'll probably help me put this pipe in as well. We just have to put a manhole. I think you guys mentioned last year to get a manhole in there. And then because we have more than 2 connections, we have to follow your guidelines for a wider sewer pipe as we go in from the 4 connections. And I think Alton try to capture all of that here. So we wanted to try to, you know, get some feedback here on the feasibility of this. And, you know, if you would go ahead and prove it, we were going to put 2 big 2 families in there, but this neighborhood's going to be much nicer if we do 4 smaller 1 families, and it's about the same capacity roughly as we had originally proposed 2 years ago.
And typically we approve an application with full set of plans and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I can just add a little history to it.
I don't think we're looking for any approval at the moment, sir. With all respect, it's a matter of, as I looked at your bylaw, the suggestion was to get a preliminary sketch type plan in. We already submitted a sketch plan, but this is a more detailed one for the commission to review first and see if we're on the right track. If we're doing something that's, you know, going to be permissible and make sense to them. So that's the stage we are at this time. And most certainly, you know, there's a full set of seriously engineered plans that would go forward with this and with the application if it seems like the route we're going to take.
So I can just give you a little background too. Sorry. It looks like from what I can see on May 1st, 2020, there was some type of preliminary approval indicating that they could connect or have 2 connections for this property. It's actually composed of 2 separate lots from the original assessors. So at some point in time, it probably was shown that was a common ownership because 1 lot is in the district and 1 lot is outside the district. So that prior approval was probably based upon common ownership of the 2 lots, treating them as 1. But you haven't approved any more than 2 EDUs for this property so far. So you'd have to basically approve the 4 EDUs that are being proposed. And my guess is from the perspective of half in and half out of the district, it may be acceptable. You may want to seek counsel on that just to make sure that town meeting approval isn't required. But in terms of the design, I would assume pressure would be in using E1s would be acceptable. And we did ask for a 1 manhole, which they have shown near Hull Street because it transitions to gravity up there. They show a rectangular tank on this plan that I'm not really sure why they're repumping. I don't think that's needed. Each of the E1s could easily combine to a common force main and bring it all the way up to the street. That's my recap.
Yeah, Dan, you have any concerns about the line shows it abutting the wetlands buffer? Now, the 100 feet wetlands buffer is for the structure of the building, 100 feet from the wetlands. What about sewer? The line looks like it abuts the wetland.
I mean, this is all common ownership, it looks like. I don't know why they're so close to the wetlands. First of all, the Concom would have to basically say that isn't a wetland, and I'm not sure if an ANRAD or anything has been done on the site. But yeah, we would prefer to stay away from the wetlands, away from shallow groundwater, just to make sure that the system, can be maintained and that we're not missing any leaks down the road.
Yeah, I think we can easily divert that dotted line there that's close to the wetlands, like 50 feet to the left as you're looking at it on the screen, and pump from another area, because it's all going uphill anyway. The 3 houses up on the hill, if you look on them, their elevations are all like 52. And down there, it's like 35. So we have a lot of flexibility to completely move the pipes out of the way of the wetlands if you don't want it running through potentially a wet area.
I mean, in terms of capacity, doesn't, obviously, we don't think we have any capacity restrictions here. But it's up to the board to approve additional units beyond the two they previously approved.
So Dan, I would disagree from one perspective, and that is, I don't think we approved, a sewer plan at all. I think they came to us with a plan similar to this, where it was a draft. So in my opinion, whatever occurred in the past has been abandoned, and we're looking at a fresh application and plan for four dwellings on the property with sewer.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't, there's no acceptance. They don't have credit for 2 EDUs already. I would suggest this is all new. Anything prior to this would have to be abandoned by now.
Yeah, and that's what you told me before, that it was nothing was in writing. So it's, but you said you could probably do 2, and that's what you said before.
Okay, yeah. So this is a whole new based on 4 dwellings. We would calculate whatever the EDUs are for the 4 dwellings based on the plan you submit, and just go forward with a whole new application.
Yeah. How many bedrooms are you looking at on each home?
Just 3 small, like 25 to 3,000 square foot starter homes for young families. We don't want to put 2 families in there because it just didn't seem right in that neighborhood. And there's a lot of young families out there already with young kids. So it just seemed like it was a better fit to just, instead of putting 2 families, to go to 4 smaller units.
So these are going to be 4 homes. They're going to be 2,500 square foot on average.
Yeah, 25 to 3 with the garage, maybe a room with the garage, it'll push it up around 3.
And each will be 3 bedroom, not 4?
3 with there'll be, 3 bedrooms upstairs, with a small laundry room or office upstairs.
Yeah,
It's the price point, the way the market's going now, people just can't afford it, right? So we're trying to keep the price down and the construction down. So we're in that mid-market level. We're not going to build 3 massive mansions or 4 massive mansions in there. I'm actually living in one of them, so I don't want to have too big of a house to deal with.
I have one question, and that is, who is responsible for the maintenance of the sort of the common collection system after it's put in?
Just having been involved with that, if I can jump in the past, I would assume it's going to be something such as when you have a condominium group, everyone is part of that sort of the condominium association. There have to be a sewer association put in, or sewer committee for the new residents, if you will, where they have some sort of a formal legal agreement that there's a certain amount of money put forward to manage the system, and it's a joint effort that would be set up at the time someone purchases the property of one of the houses, that they would have to sign on to. That it's a requirement of the ownership that they got to be part of what we call a sewer, our local sewer commission, if you will, the Lambert's Lane Sewer Commission type of thing.
Do we have a
My
shared?
computer's totally winked off, but are you still there?
Yeah, we have a shared driveway going in too, so that'll be part of that agreement. They're all kind of sharing an easement for water and sewer, and then they're going to share a driveway too.
So this is basically you're setting up like an HOA, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Your homeowners association, it would be, I guess.
Yeah, so we would
That
need
sound
to have,
correct?
we would need to have, so, as far as an agreement was concerned, we need to know what the legal entity is going to be and all that sort of stuff, just as we've done for others.
Yeah, we got out of the grinder pump business a year and a half ago, so everyone's kind of on their own with their own pump system for maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would build it to have the certified alarms in there and thing if it stopped working and things. And I think Alton has that. He'll have that in the eventual design. But the technology for those pumps have come a long way, so people can be alerted if they're not working.
The other choice I was looking at it, but E1 recommends the grinder pumps, but was to have a large septic tank there, or septic tanks in series, if you will, to get the right size. Our anticipated day flow would be 1,320 gallons a day. And if you're supposed to have twice that in the tank, as I recall, we're probably going to need a couple of 1,500 gallon tanks, but not to have the grinder pumps and let the septic system, let the big septic tanks work as they do in a home to settle out floatables and sinkables, if you will, and then have it go, to a second tank, which would be the pump chamber, second tank or chamber, probably a third tank, if you will, which would be the pump chamber, which would then force it up the hill, if you will, out to our sewer manhole by Hull Street, where we then do the last 10, 15, whatever feet by gravity flow as required there. So the hope is that I think based on the topography, we can get all of the homes to gravity flow down to a septic tank if we move it over somewhere to where we're out of the 100-foot buffer zone, where if you see where I say sewer line, six diameter PVC gravity flow, we would put the tank over there somewhere out of the buffer zone, such that all the lines are out of the buffer zone, and our final pump main, if you will, is out of the buffer zone to our manhole number 2 up there. So that would be kind of revising the plan per your considerations and how it would, one way of working it. The other is to have the separate grinder pumps that each home would be responsible for on their own.
Yeah, I think basically, Alton,
My question, excuse me, if I can just finish with one quick question on that, John. My question is, I believe you have, because this is a quote unquote, it's going to be part of the town sewer system, if I'm not mistaken. I formally called it a lateral because that's what it would be. It's going from, its own line community, sort of a collector sewer, if you will. I believe you had some pipe size or pipe diameter requirements for that. And for an E1, I'm trying to keep it, I'm working with E1 on the design. They have a whole design program, if you will. But the idea is to keep that force main. I proposed 4-inch diameter, which seemed pretty adequate on my preliminary calculations for the 4 homes, but obviously keep it as small as possible for a force main. I don't want some trying to force stuff through a 12-inch diameter main out there. I mean, lateral, if you will. So that's another aspect that would have to be approved by the commission, the size of that line that would be acceptable. And I'm going to propose whatever I come up with after working with E1 on that. They say a 3-inch diameter is good, 4 inches better, then we'll go with a 4-inch. But the idea obviously is to reduce the stress on the pump and make it work better and reduce the size of the pump, if you will.
Alton, if I could just interject, I mean, in terms of the final design, obviously that will be reviewed when you have a plan submission with the application. In terms of locating tanks down near the wetlands in the back of the property, that's not ideal from my perspective because tanks do leak. Same thing with gravity pipes. So I think the pressure sewer alternative here with the 4 E1 grinder pumps is probably a more economical alternative, and it basically also isolates some of the major costs, which is the pumps to the individual properties to make your HOA agreement a little bit easier. But the bottom line is you can simplify the system a lot easier with the E1 pumps. And more than likely, you're probably only going to need something like a 2-inch line going up to the discharge manhole near Hull Street. But again, you can look at that.
But we still have to go to a pump chamber. My idea was from the gravity, from the grinder pumps, we then gravity down to my pump chamber, which, as I said, and per your comments, would be moved considerably to the west, if you will, so that we're out well as far as we can practically be from the buffer zone, and it keeps any of our other lines as far as they can be from the buffer zone.
I don't think
this over more into the middle of this plan, and then from there it would be pumped up the last 158 feet to our manhole by Hull Street.
Yeah, the E1 pumps have plenty of
Size line,
capacity.
I'm obviously glad to take anybody's opinion on what they think the size of the line should be.
Yeah.
And we can debate that, but that would all be on the plan. You're probably going to get near 2 or 3 sheets of drawings with this by the time I show all the details on it.
Yeah,
So it'd be-
what they're saying, Elton, is like a 2-inch would probably be best. They're saying, look at a 2-inch. So evaluate a 2-inch and see what happens when it gets up there near the street. But I'd ask Daniel
I'm fine with the 2 inch,
Coughlin,
the smaller,
Coughlin,
the better.
Dan, when you get up there near the street, what do you need? Where does that water go?
Well, that'd go
wait.
to a discharge manhole, so you'd have to direct it to a gravity line going to the gravity sewer in Hull Street. So
Okay,
the discharge manhole you have there with the force main discharging to it is probably fine. You know, that way you can transition from a pressure into gravity and enter the system that way, so you're not disrupting the Hull Street main.
and
Significantly.
how far back from the edge of the road do you have to be for that? Because it's like to get the elevation, we can get that elevation because the sewer pipe's at 45 up there, and we will probably be right up around 48. So we could
I mean,
probably come
well-
down like 3 feet. But
Well,
how far
the thing
back?
is, there is no requirement. The manhole or the discharge manhole should probably be on your property, though, not in the right of way.
Right. So if we're like 10 feet back from the edge of pavement, that's fine.
Yeah, so long as you get it to the street by gravity, which you should be able to do.
Okay. All right, sounds reasonable. Alton, does that sound reasonable,
Yes.
Alton?
Yeah, no, it does. That's pretty much what I was thinking. I kind of had the manhole there. I went with 10 feet, but not knowing exactly yet where the whole main is. I kind of just put a line in there, assuming where I thought it was, but we really got to have that nailed down better. You've got the invert from, I guess, their plans, or Rod did, of elevation 45, but I don't know the exact location in the street, in Hull Street yet. Did you get, John, did you get a full plan of the sewer there in Hull Street?
Yeah. Like 2 years ago, I had it surveyed, and an engineer was, not an engineer, a surveyor that did the same survey for the house. He got the depth,
Okay.
he opened up the manhole and he got the depth of where the sewer pipe was on Hull. It's at
But he had
45.
but he hit manholes, so we know where the line actually is located in the street.
Correct, yes, yeah,
Okay, so that's good. We have that info, which we definitely need if we're gonna tie in.
yeah.
So that's the thought process.
Okay, then I think, you know, if we've got sort of a schematic, and I'm not going to use the word approval because we're not going to give any formal approval until you submit an application to us and with the plans, but I think schematically this will work, and it's just a matter of you giving us a formal application and the design plan so that Dan can review them.
Yeah, it sounds perfect. Yeah, thanks for the feedback.
That sounds perfect. That's what we expected, actually. I mean, that was the plan. I hardly expected anyone to approve this thing. I mean, I think it's a nice drawing I did, but it's a long way from a formal approval drawing, you know, PE drawing for the design of a sewer system. But it sounds as if you prefer the grinder pumps at each house, which is fine by me, but
I think that simplifies it.
is that my correct interpretation?
That's just my preference. I think it simplifies the process, and there's no need to repump that flow. Each grinder pump has plenty of capacity to get it up to Hull Street.
I'm sorry, I missed the last part.
I said each pump has plenty of capacity and head to get it up to Hull Street. So I don't think there's any need.
Oh,
for
really?
tank-
Okay. So
tanks
you
or
would just have
repumping.
them all Y into one line and not have my pump chamber down there.
Correct.
So they would just start as pressure from the house and then Y in, or join a main line, if you will, at some point. That's fine. That's what we can do. I didn't know if that gets confusing when you have 4 different pumps coming in to a line, if they're going to conflict with each other, which is why I had it go to a pump chamber, if you will, where there'd be one pump that would universally push it out to Hull Street, rather than trying to have 4 work together. But that I can work through with E1, how they feel about it.
I think there's probably some kind of back flap you need to maintain the pressure. There's probably some other devices you need.
Well, maybe backflow preventers or something like that in there. You know, a valving that would not let it go back out, but would let it go forward. But to me, the easier thing was almost just having a pump chamber in there, and then they're going to have to be grinder pumps anyway to get the stuff ground up. I was just going to have it flow down. Then when there's a standard pressure pump or any system that then just pushes the treated effluent, if you will, out our 2-inch line to the street, and just collects everything from the 4 homes after they've been ground up. And it serves as a point to me too for, how can we say, maintenance of the line, you know, keeping an eye on how things are going, however you want to phrase it. you know, we have a pump chamber that someone can in if the line has to be cleaned out at some point in time. And can check flows and such of those types of things. So that's my thought too with the pump chamber. The chamber itself is not a vast expense, but I mean, the other pump may be, I don't know. I haven't priced everything yet.
All right, sounds good. I think these guys want to get going. I think we have enough here to go,
Okay.
Alton, and thank you for the feedback and everybody, Daniel, and my only last question is how far below grade should we put the 2-inch line? Is that a consideration?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't want to have any frost issues, you can put it down 5 feet, but 4 feet would be the absolute minimum.
Okay, I do have to go down 4 because I heard some people mention 2 foot is all right, but all right, so we got a plan for 4, right?
Yeah, I mean, there are some exceptions. You have to come before the board where you could use a 2-inch pre-insulated pipe at shallower depths, but certainly not at 2 feet.
Okay, all right, sounds reasonable. All right, thanks a lot.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else? We don't have any abatements, right?
No, I received one yesterday, but I haven't prepared it yet.
Okay, all right. Anybody have anything else?
Next meeting. No.
No?
All set.
All right, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
All in favor? Bill McGowan, aye.
All KSI.
inside Chuck guy.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
See
you.
you in a couple. Take care.
Bye.